Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to we're not even going to call this Breaking the Game, but we do have the Breaking the Game cast here, in addition with Mr. Couch Coach live here on the show. And we're going to be just covering the breakdown of the finals. If you've been paying attention to all of the shows that we all three have appeared on, we have broken down basically every game coming up into this game, a crucial game 6, in which the Los Angeles Lakers have finally put away the pesky Miami Heat, clinching their 17th title, tying the all-time most between them and, of course, the rivaled Boston Celtics. To me, it doesn't get much, better as far as the storyline goes. The only way that this could have got better is if the point total was either by 8 or 24. It didn't break out that way, but still a good game nonetheless. Gentlemen, just real quick, what has been your reaction to the game?
Go ahead. I'll let you go first.
Right. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Lakers. In such an unprecedented year. Just congratulations to them. I mean, this has been such a tough year for them in so many ways. Just the think of the multitude of this season, really essentially starting in October, then coupled with the loss of Kobe Bryant in January, in the midst of them coming back home from a long, arduous West Coast trip, which was, that too. And then just the mourning process of that as well. And then the stoppage of play in March. And then coming back here in July in a different circumstance, like the bubble, and the person feel like that. It's just a tribute to a great season for this Lakers, and there will be no asterisk in my mind, and it should definitely not be an asterisk in anybody's mind. This is one of the most hard-fought championships I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know how anybody can say that this year or this championship is discounted in any way or doesn't count. I mean, when you factor in one physically being the longest NBA season ever, and then on top of the loss of Kobe Bryant, all the drama that comes around just having a guy like LeBron James on your team, the constant media circus, the bubble, to me, I think the inability to have, someone there to console you after a loss or maybe get you back in the right mindset. I know they had some family members there in the bubble the last couple series, but they've been there for 3 months. That's a long time to be stuck in one place. Got to give credit to them for how they played and how they overcame everything. Miami Heat obviously were a worthy opponent. They showed that. One thing I was really amazed with was the fact that Goran Dragic was back out there today. I want to give him props for that. That's a pretty tough injury to overcome. But you pretty much took the words right out of my mouth, man. I just, they overcame more than most teams ever have. So congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations are in order. But from one GOAT to another GOAT, from one LeBron to another, ladies and gentlemen, joining us live tonight on the NBA breakdown of the finals is our very own LeBron, Mr. Chris LeBron of the Off the Ball Network. Chris, what's going on, man? Good to see you.
What's going on, guys?
What's up?
It's good to see you, man. And our guy Jeff too, jumping in on the chat. I appreciate you coming in, Jeff. He said, "I can't believe it's over." Chris, we just watched a crazy finish to a crazy season during a crazy year. How did you digest the game?
I mean, from the jump, it was like, yeah, the Lakers, they're dominating this. There was just no chance that the Heat were gonna win this game. It just they seemed flat. They were out of it, and yeah, LeBron was just on a rampage, and Miami couldn't do anything in the paint. Lakers just dominated the paint. And Jimmy just looked out of it. I mean, we saw how he was last game, just completely, no energy left. You saw how he was limping, out of the press conference, and it showed because he just didn't have that extra oomph in his game today. and it showed. And it really, Hero wasn't the same, and Bam was off too. Bam was just
Yes.
he wasn't good, and obviously if those three guys aren't playing well, it's going to be hard, and especially when Rondo's hitting shots and KCP's hitting shots, and obviously LeBron and AD are doing their thing. I mean,
Hmm.
it's pretty much you have no chance if those four guys for the Lakers are doing their thing and all your guys are struggling. So not surprised, but wish it was a better game. It was a pretty much a 30-point game, blowout at 36-point, blowout at one point. And
Hmm.
it's tough way, but shout out to the Heat. They fought all series long. I mean, the fact that it went six after game one
Mhm.
is kind of crazy, especially with all the injuries. We didn't expect that to go. I think a lot of people either saw a sweep or a gentleman sweep in five. But
Yeah.
Miami's, they had an impressive playoffs. I mean, they took out the Pacers team that was red hot. They came into the bubble red hot, and TJ Warren and all that, and they shut them down, swept them, and then obviously taking down Giannis and the crew in five, which is the shocker of the whole playoffs, and then obviously taking down Boston too with all those scoring. But they had a great season, so you gotta give them credit. Jimmy did his thing. Just ran out of energy. Right? It's just that
Mhm.
simple. He just ran out of gas, which I think a lot of people expected. So great for them, and the Lakers. It was just a magical run, right? A magical
Yeah.
run since the unfortunate passing of Kobe, earlier in the year, and they, with all the craziest in the world, and they managed to figure it out and win the championship. It's an impressive championship. Under these crazy circumstances. So shout out to them for getting the job done and pulling up banner 17. I mean, that's crazy that they got all these championships. It's really impressive, and shout out to LeBron and then AD for doing their thing. A couple guys, Rondo getting another ring. First he's the second
Playoff
guy ever
Rondo.
playoff
Mhm.
Rondo. As a Celtic
Playoff
and
Rondo
a,
for
and a
sure.
Laker, and Dwight Howard winning his first ring. His redemption story is a pretty good. Coming back from all the injuries and people just doubting him, and not that he was overly great. Obviously, we're not expecting he wasn't Dwight Howard of old, but still, gave them
Yeah.
valuable minutes in the minutes he played, and good to see him win a championship and all that. So it was just a great playoff. The
Yeah.
playoffs so
Mhm.
much fun. I'm sad it's over. That's why
Yeah.
it's sad it's over, but shout out to the NBA for allowing us to even have this because the other sports have struggled, keeping
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
baseball and
Yeah.
football, all the cancellations, and basketball they literally no positive test since the bubble. So thanks for the
They
NBA
did it
for
right.
giving us great
Yeah.
product on the court as good as
Yeah.
possible with all the craziness, and it was a fun ride watching
Yeah.
watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And just real quick, shout out to Jeff coming on and basically echoing those exact same sentiments that you
Mhm.
just did, Chris, with the congratulations to the NBA. Wholeheartedly agree. And then our guy, Mo Murphy at the Up in Flames podcast coming in. I know that he was dying to get on the show tonight. Trust me, buddy. I know exactly what you're going through. I can 100% relate. What I'm sure that we're going to talk ad nauseum about this, as long as we can milk it out on future shows, man. Thanks for stepping in. But guys, I have a couple things that I took notes on for tonight. But real quick, just going over the box score. LeBron James, actually, this is one of the things. He had 28 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists, a steal, right? At one point, he had no turnovers in a triple-double in the fourth quarter. He did end up recording a triple-double with one turnover, right?
Mhm.
Anthony Davis, 19 points, 15 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks. Playoff Rondo stepping in with 19 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, and a steal. KCP, 17 points, 2 rebounds, and a steal. Other than that, Danny Green did get 11 points. He did hit 3 of 7 from deep. A couple storylines already just running off the top of my head going through the stat line. What I want to go over first, though, is I want to save the best for last. So just real quick, Danny Green, the struggles that this man has endured in the finals in particular, shot 30% from the field before tonight in this series. in the Western Conference Final, shot 29% against the Denver Nuggets. Didn't really play in the didn't shoot that well in the finals the previous year. How did you guys feel about his 25 points tonight with 11 points, 3 of 7 from the field, 4 of 10 from the floor? We'll go ahead and start with Austin. We'll go ahead and start with you.
Well, it was nice to see him actually take a drive to the lane at least once this whole series. I think I mentioned to you I hadn't hardly seen him dribble in almost a month, maybe more than once. So it was nice to see him have a little bit of attacking mindset. I did see something that I kind of wanted to just bring up really quick. Anybody that's listening or anybody that's an NBA fan at all, if you take any of this so serious that you feel like you need to threaten to kill somebody over missing a shot during a game, like you need to reevaluate your entire life. Like that's ridiculous. I don't want to spend
100%.
too much time on it. That just kind of really bothered me. Like,
I think we all agree with you on that. Yeah.
So, we don't need to talk about that too much, but it was, he was in double figures tonight. He kind of redeemed himself a little bit. He hit, some big shots. I just think overall he was more there. I mean, they wanted him to be a shooter, but he provides great defense. He's been in the finals before plenty of times. He's a champion, and I just think you can't ever have enough of that championship experience on a team. And I think it showed a lot in through the whole playoffs. They never really got flustered. As bad as he played, he never really lost confidence. Shooters shoot, and he kept taking his shots, and he maybe didn't make enough of them for a lot of people's liking. But ultimately, it didn't really seem to make that much of a difference because they still won most of their series pretty handily without him really lighting it up. So, happy for him that he was able to, kind of redeem himself a little bit tonight.
Yeah, fair point. Couch Coach, how do you feel, man? Because again, Frank Vogel has been pretty stubborn with his rotations. He actually came into tonight's game with a little bit of a shakeup. What do you make of Danny Green's performance and even Frank Vogel's, stubbornness, if you will?
Redemption. I look at it from a standpoint, especially as you know, Stephen, I affectionately view this young man as my nephew, as a UNC guy. I just look at it from a standpoint of, like you saying, like what Austin was saying, shooters gonna shoot. And, it's one of those things where it's like you still want to give this guy confidence. He isn't a neophyte in this game. He's been around for almost 10. He's been in this league for 10 years. So he's going to have those somewhat of an ebb and flow type situations. And you want to kind of keep him involved. I do like what they did this, as far as this in this game to implement him a little bit more in the offense. Well, and obviously this wasn't close. But just the simple fact of to help his confidence, because you think about like this is a situation where he could have definitely, he could have had he was almost like the Bill Buckner of this series up until essentially, until everything that happened tonight, where he looked like if the Lakers if they were to force a Game 7 and they would have lost, everybody would have looked at this at that moment in Game 5 as well. Danny Green's the one that lost his game for us. So. I look at it from that standpoint. It's the redemption for him. I'm definitely happy for him. Back-to-back NBA champ. He also a rare air, just like his teammate, the King, LeBron James, winning 3 titles with 3 different teams. So definitely huge shout out to my nephew. Shout out to Danny Green, man.
Shout out to Danny Green.
For sure.
LeBron, man, we mentioned his stats. We mentioned his minutes. We mentioned that Vogel has been stubborn basically up until tonight. With Dwight Howard getting kicked out of the rotation, essentially, he was in cleanup duty. He only played 2 minutes, got 3 points on a 3-point shot. Before this season, when was the last time we ever talked about Dwight Howard being a shooter, right? But coming into the night, had two minutes. He was kind of gooning, as I like to affectionately call it, last game, getting into scuffles with a lot of different people. And Caruso getting the start over him, logging 33 minutes with putting up 4 points, 3 boards, 5 assists, a steal, and a block. How did you feel about Vogel's rotations overall? And again, just speak to Danny Green.
I mean, yeah, he, it was fine. I mean, as long as it all comes down to LeBron James and Anthony Davis anyway. So no matter how the rotations is, if LeBron and AD are on point, and you get one, like if you have KCP on point too, it doesn't really matter how you have the rotations. You're probably gonna win. And the way their defense was, to me, that's That's what was
Mhm.
impressive. That defense, especially in today's game, they were just on point. Like you saw real quick in this game, like okay, they they don't want this to go 7. Like this isn't they don't even want to be in that, like no, not going
No.
7 because and they were finishing it off today, and that's just AD came out, he was aggressive defensively.
Mhm.
Alex Caruso was a
Caruso.
monster on defense.
He
Like,
led the entire team in plus minus tonight with plus 20, by the way.
he was. I don't care about his shooting performance and all that. The defense to me was just on point. He was all over the place, and that just makes everyone else play defense even easier. LeBron was making plays defensively. It just
Mhm.
they took advantage of a wounded Miami team because Jimmy
And a
obviously
fatigued, yes.
a fatigued and wounded Miami team that just didn't have anything left in the tank. Like, they were on E going into this game. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and and you just never felt that at any point in this game for Miami that okay, maybe they'll make this a run here. It at no point in this game I'm like, oh no, they're done. And I don't like saying a team's done in the first quarter or the first half, but this
It
game
was done at
when
half.
you watch this game, you're like, oh no, it's over. It's over.
Yeah.
They just had no umph, and that's how you could see. Like, it's one thing if they had energy and like, oh, they're just not making their shots, but all they gotta do is get on a nice run, But there was none of that with Miami. You just saw Bam was dead. Obviously, Dragic, you're not gonna get much out of him. He could barely move. You could see he was just, he just wanted to play because it's Game 6, maybe get a chance. But early on, obviously, it was done. But Vogel did a good job. Defense the defense was, like I said, the defense was on point, and LeBron James, AD did their thing, and that's all you really need. Like, it's like Vogel. I can't give too much credit, can't give too much blame to Vogel because I mean you have LeBron James, you have Anthony Davis, like come on. I mean, he also has Jason Kidd as a coach, Phil Handy as a coach.
Yeah.
Lionel Hollins is on that bench.
So
Yeah.
I don't know how much credit I'm gonna give him, but he does get credit. He is the head coach, but can't give him too much credit. Not just like I won't give him too much blame. So he gets in the middle, he gets some, but you have LeBron James, AD, they were on point. They're the reason why you win this, and timely play from the bench, was just like their 2 losses. Their bench was the reason why they didn't win. Right, the bench was just MIA. In this case, the bench stepped up. Rondo was amazing. He hit some big time threes. So
Yes.
it comes down to that, and that's why they're world champions right now.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Austin, it looked like you wanted to say something to a point.
Yeah, you said something about Caruso. A couple things. You said something about Caruso having the best plus minus on the team.
Yeah.
I follow the Lakers
Yeah.
I watch almost every game that I can. I follow them pretty closely, and he does that pretty often. Actually, believe it or not, even without really being much of a scorer, he's always near the top. He's in there to be a pest. He's in there to be a kind of a disruptor on defense. Kind of, he's got like a momentum guy. When you see a bald, unathletic looking white guy out there dunking on people, it kind of gets everybody off the bench and gets them going a little bit. I think, at least that's how it seems.
Plumber, right? Like that's a popular.
Yeah, exactly. A plumber. There you go. Just like Jordan played, right? Anyway, but what you saw from Jimmy Butler, I think, is what you want from the star on your team when they're just overmatched, like the Miami Heat were. At halftime of this game, he'd played 70 of the last 72 minutes between Game 5 and tonight, and it's not like he was out there in Game 5, just kind of going through the motions. He gave it everything he had the entire game.
Yeah, last game he played all but like 90 seconds.
Mm-hmm. And, you could just see he just didn't have anything in the tank. As far as everybody else, it just didn't seem like the level of urgency you need to have in a win or die kind of game like that. They just, we had talked about on our show, Steven, how they kind of seemed like a team that when their backs were against the wall is when they kind of played their best. Correct. And that didn't come to fruition at all tonight. The Lakers are kind of a team that, when they see the ball go in the basket a little bit at the beginning of the game, I feel like their defensive effort goes up. They kind of feed off of that. And like Chris said, at the end of the day, it's all really about LeBron and AD. They really only need one other guy on that team to even really score double figures.
Exactly
And
right.
if they get one decent performance from another teammate, their defense is so good, they're probably going to win most of the time.
Exactly.
So like you said, how much wrong could a Frank Vogel have done with this team? He would have had to have a pretty, bad coaching performance for it to really make that much of a difference. I mean, you got the best player in the world. It's hard to mess it up.
Exactly.
No,
When AD and LeBron get 45 or more points, and then you get, KCP. I think he had 17.
he had
points.
17 tonight
Mhm.
on 6
And
of
then you got
13 shooting.
Rondo having double digit. All you need is 4. Like if LeBron and AD are doing that, and then you just have 2 other guys
Two
that
other
are
guys,
hitting
yeah.
shots. That's all you need
Yeah.
for them. And that was like as much as And I came into the series when I was evaluating this series. I'm like, I love Miami's depth, but then I remember talking to someone like they still have. But at the end of the day, the 2 best players play for the LA Lakers,
That's
and
right.
all they need is just a couple other guys to help them out. So and I'm like, man, you're right. I mean,
Yeah.
depth is good, but when you have by far the 2 best players on your team, I mean that trumps everything. Like, all you
Right.
need is a couple role
Right.
players here and there to do your thing.
It could be anybody being your third wheel as long as
And-
someone
right?
steps up.
And that was the only question mark of this team because we knew what we were going to get from AD and LeBron.
It was
was just
supposed to be
more
Kyle
so-
Kuzma. It was
Right, and
supposed to be
right, and that's who we presumed to be as that third option, but obviously that didn't happen. But like you said, that was the biggest issue going into the bubble. Where like we were all thinking like, okay, we know what we can get from LeBron and AD. It's just
Correct.
more so the role players. So who was going to be, like you said, those 2 or 3 guys each night, or whoever as a collective, who was going to be those 2 or 3 guys who was going to step up night in and night out for this team, and that was the only question.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to kind of transition a little bit from the Lakers. We're going to come back to them. We're not looking to divert from giving LeBron any credit for anybody already thinking that, like tonight is about LeBron James. And I'm going to give him, what does Kendrick Perkins like to say on TV? Give him his flowers, But I want to talk a little bit about the Miami Heat. Austin, on our show that, I'd say all the time, I don't need people to tell me how good the Miami Heat are to try to make this finals watchable, for the casual fan. I know that it's a job to try to make this, as fun as possible for everybody to watch. Like the diehards like us, we're going to watch regardless, right? But for the casual fan, if they see game 2, which was kind of similar to tonight, where the Heat get blown out, that's when you started seeing like, the Heat this, the Heat that. I've started already seeing on social media that Eric Spoelstra is quote unquote getting exposed. Now I know how all three of you gentlemen feel about Eric Spoelstra, and it's not like that. So
It's called LeBron James. That's
exactly. So speaking to that, right? Because Jimmy Butler, although he didn't do a lot, he was still 50% from the floor, albeit 5 of 10 shooting, 1 of 2 from deep. He finished with 12 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists. Bam Adebayo actually led the team in scoring with 25 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. And Chris, you were just saying earlier, it felt like he didn't do much, right? So like when you look at how efficient this team was, I mean, they did shoot 44% from the floor. They were 4% better from the 3-point line, right? They actually had more assists than the Los Angeles Lakers, even though they got blown out, right? And they fouled the Lakers less than the Lakers fouled them. So this is we see the Heat a lot. We respect the Heat a lot, especially Coach Spoelstra. Chris, how do you feel about Spoelstra as an NBA head coach, and how should we view him moving forward from this finals?
Oh, he's the elite of the elite. He's one of the best coaches. Like, and for people to say that he got exposed, I mean, did you see who he played against?
Correct.
And he went 6 against that team with a beat up roster. Like his best player was banged up. For both the wins they had. I mean, Jimmy Butler had to literally sacrifice his body to win those games, and he was beat up. Dragic hurt, Bam hurt. You lost to LeBron James, to say he got exposed. What did he get exposed with? Like,
right, that he's great.
that he's great. Like so he gets exposed because he lost to arguably the greatest player of all time, right?
Mhm.
Arguably the greatest of all time, right? We're talking about a four-time MVP, all the accolades. We can go hours about talking about LeBron's and then he with Anthony Davis. So literally two of the, and we could say Anthony Davis is a top 5 player, right? So he lost to two of the top 5 players in the league. He went
Mhm.
6 games with them.
Mhm.
But he got
And there's 2 other Hall of Famers on this roster too, with Rajon Rondo and Dwight Howard.
But forget about them.
Right.
Those guys are,
Yeah,
are clearly
forget about the
not
Hall of
those-
Famers. Yep, forget
but
them.
but we're talking about LeBron and AD who are still elite,
Different
of
level.
elite.
Correct.
It-
Yes.
Like Rondo all time, yeah, and Dwight Howard all time, yeah, that's different. But we're talking about like Dwight Howard played 1 minute, so I'm not gonna. He didn't have much,
Two.
You know,
2. Come on now.
All that cheerleading on the bench
Ron-
helps, man.
Yeah, but like to lose to two of the top 5 players in the game currently, like that's
Mhm.
and go 6 games with them, like I don't get how
Right.
people can even say he's
Without
but
your
you know what?
without
It's
your
just-
leading scorer.
Right.
without Dragic, like Dragic didn't play. It's just how can you say
Right.
that? Like it's ridiculous to say that, but people, it's just crazy, right? It's just it's sometimes NBA Twitter and NBA discussion boards can be really nutty. Like sometimes I just posted before. I'm like LeBron really might keyword might be the GOAT. People are like, oh no, he's not the GOAT. I was like, well, if you actually read what I said, it's like he really might be the GOAT, right?
As
You have
in,
to
there
read,
is a
right?
case. Yeah.
I'm like, there's a case, right?
Right.
Because a lot of people
Right.
want to say he's not. But I'm saying, yo, he's proved that with this championship, he's now 4-6. Like he might be the GOAT. That's all I said. He might be the GOAT. Like I don't know. Oh no, he's not the GOAT. Like, come on, guys, read first of all.
Yeah,
Reading is fucking
but
Right.
why?
Right.
No, he's
Right.
not the era. Different era. That's like, well, but that's a silly.
But that
thing to
doesn't
say.
matter.
But that
No.
doesn't like. There's a silly thing to say to different eras because obviously there's different eras. Wilt played in different eras. Kareem, Magic. Like you can't just say, well, no, different eras. Well, it's like, well, I'm saying, if in the context of basketball, we're talking about all time. He's definitely there. So like, I
Yeah.
said, he might be the GOAT.
He's in the conversation.
The
I
conversation.
want to
the
kind of
conversation.
I want to kind of table this. I want to kind of table that discussion though, because I do want to end the show giving LeBron James nothing but love tonight. And for people who know me well, like that should mean something coming from me because I am pretty critical of LeBron James. I'm not a hater, but I am critical. There's a difference. Couch, I want to ask you real quick. I saw on our little Twitter group that we have where we talk to each other through the games and during the day and everything. Someone posted that Skip Bayless said that Rajon Rondo should be Finals MVP based on tonight.
He's making.
That's
the
what-
case for
that's-
Finals MVP. Yeah, that's what he said.
So I wanna know 2 things. One, obviously Rondo went off tonight, right? So I want to know what the impact of Rondo was for the team tonight, but I also want to know, should he be Finals MVP based off of tonight?
Okay. Skip Bayless, he does this for theater. I don't take him with a grain of salt. What Rondo does is he does the little things. He defends, he gives you that grit that they need. He's like a heat check guy with, as a basketball term would be. He's very instrumental in this team. I mean, he's a glue guy, quote unquote. And so to me, the whole thing of him, Skip Bayless saying that he should be the MVP, it's just theater. He's just doing it to get a rise out of people and for us to make it to make it about him more so than anything, because we all know this team goes with LeBron James. This man he had another triple double, and even in this game that he really didn't even. He had like you said, he went into the fourth quarter with a triple double and didn't have a turnover.
A single turnover.
And you mean to tell me we're going to talk about Rajon Rondo being our Finals MVP? Like, skill.
Speaking of that, that's gonna be hysterical tomorrow.
Oh man, I can't wait.
He's gonna come in. He's gonna come in with a full horse costume, and he's gonna have someone be like the double end of the horse. Like it's gonna be Shannon and somebody inside the full horse costume. Come Monday.
Oh, yeah. It's gonna be. I might actually watch the show tomorrow. Like
Mhm.
I don't even like Fox Sports, but I might watch it.
Potentially.
I don't ever watch it, but I might tomorrow. To be
Potentially.
honest, it is pretty funny.
Come up with like, well, if the Clippers had beaten the Denver Nuggets,
See, that's
Uh,
ifs.
Well, they did.
That's like anything.
but
Skip,
Skip.
the Clippers lost.
Skip.
They had a chance. They were up 15 points in Game 5
Right.
against Denver, and they could have finished them off. But hey, guess
They had
what?
3
didn't do
cracks
it.
at it. They had 3 cracks at it. This ain't
No,
no
they were up 10 every game that they blew.
game.
Game
Right.
5, Game 6, Game 7, up 10 points.
Nope.
They had 3.
They had
cracks
they
to
had
beat them,
opportunities.
right?
Yep.
But hey, you
Yep.
gotta win.
Is what it
Yep.
is.
You gotta win. You gotta win.
It's so ridiculous when people say that. Well, the
There's no
Clippers-
paper
if the
championships, you know.
If the
Well-
Clippers had beaten Denver, they would have beaten the Lakers. It's like, well, what if
Well-
coulda, right?
If
Well,
if
and-
if
and-
ifs and
and-
buts were candies
Yeah.
and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, right? So
Right.
and that same Lakers team had a 3-1 lead over Denver, and guess what they
And
did?
they
They took
crushed
care of
them.
business.
They took care of
In
business.
the conversation. I hate that if stuff, because if is if, it don't matter. They had the same. They were in the same predicament, just like the Clippers.
Exactly, you said. Kyle.
And the Lakers took
did
care.
the same thing, and guess what?
Thing.
In Game 5,
And they took care of
squashed
business.
them. They're like,
Mhm.
nope, we ain't,
Right.
we ain't gonna even
No.
give you guys a
Exactly.
that sense of hope.
We're not
Under
Utah.
pressure. Exactly.
We're not
Yep.
Utah. We're not the Clippers.
Yep, there
We're
you go.
different. We're different.
Austin, I want to transition to you, man. So
Mhm.
another thing that I saw circulating on social media, everybody is using I don't even know if you can call it an excuse, maybe just a point of emphasis that Miami being hurt is why the series went the way that it went. What I also would like people to remember is the fact that the Los Angeles Lakers were in fact without Avery Bradley for the entire playoffs and Boogie Cousins, right? Who we talked about on our last show. Boogie during last finals, even though he wasn't like a dominant guy, he was still very, very much a plus on while he was on the floor. How do you evaluate how much of this victory went the way of Miami being injured? And then how quickly do you think people forgot that the Lakers won this without their starting like 3-and-D guy in Avery Bradley and without a perennial all-star, used to be anyway, with DeMarcus Cousins?
Well, first off, I thought it was a little weird that throughout the entire playoffs, you hardly ever even heard anybody in the broadcast or an analysis of these games even talk about Avery Bradley. It was like all of a sudden he just didn't exist, and like he wasn't a big part of this roster all year long, because he was arguably their best perimeter defender for most of the year. You know, he hit big shots. He brought a lot of energy. He was just another extra ball handler, which never hurts. And as far as the injuries go for Miami, it always makes a difference to some extent. But the Lakers were up by 15 or 20 points in Game 1 by the time that Bam and Goran Dragic went out. Bam came back. Obviously, he wasn't 100%. But at the end of the day, you know, Miami's just overmatched. They played well. They gave it their all. I don't think it really affected the overall outcome. I mean, they might have been able to push it to Game 7 if both those guys were there for Game 6, and you know, maybe it gets Jimmy Butler a little chance to rest if Dragic is there and he's not quite so gassed. It could make a little bit of a difference, but ultimately, like we've been saying, the Lakers had the 2 best players in the series. They had the 2 best players in pretty much every series just about they were in. And, you know, Eric Spoelstra, honestly, to me, is the most important and best piece of the entire Miami Heat team, if you ask me. Because I look at it this way. Portland never made me nervous for a second that they were going to beat the Lakers, and they have a first-team All-NBA superstar, and they were healthy. You know,
Jeff just reminded us of Charles Barkley guaranteeing the Portland
Right.
Trailblazers were going to beat the
you
Lakers.
know, if he says it, to probably put your money on the other side. So,
Right.
That's
but,
like Drake wearing your jersey, right?
right. So, and then, you know, even Houston, everybody said small ball was going to kill the Lakers. They wouldn't be able to handle it. And, you know, what do? They completely benched their 2 centers for the entire series and completely, you know, overwhelmed them too. They have arguably two of the, you know, 10 or 15 best guys in the NBA on that team, and they never made me nervous. The Nuggets came back from 2-3-1, you know, deficits, you know, just wouldn't go away. Jamal Murray, you know, grew up right in front of us and became, you know, a household name to an extent.
Yes, sir.
In these playoffs. Never made me nervous for a second. I was a little bit worried after, games 4 and 5, game 4 being so hard for them to win, and game 5, then when they lost, that, Spoelstra kind of seemed like he'd figured him out a little bit. He was giving Anthony Davis a little bit more trouble than I had seen, in quite a while. And it made me really think about it and realize Miami wasn't supposed to be here, according to everybody. The same people that are down in Spoelstra now are probably the people that said they weren't even going to make the playoffs, or they were going to barely make the playoffs this year.
Mm-hmm.
And not only make it to the finals, but to take
the 8 seed.
to take. I mean, I wasn't that high on them either. I figured they'd.
I knew they were going to beat the Bucks. I was beating that drum.
A team that's just ascending, right? And they would get
right, maybe a year or two away from being where they are now.
I consider them a dark horse, but Lord, I didn't think they were going to be actually winning the Eastern Conference final. I mean,
I didn't have them getting past Boston, so as
right
big of a drum I was for them over Milwaukee. I didn't have
and Steven, I think how I feel about Brad Stevens. I'm really high on him. And Eric Spoelstra put on a coaching clinic in that series against them. He had them completely confused on offense.
Jeff made that same comment earlier in the show.
They were confused on offense. You could see the zone completely, befuddled them. They were standing there thinking about what to do next instead of just playing basketball. And I think if you want to split hairs about the difference between a really good NBA coach and a great NBA coach, it's the ability to adjust. We see, Mike Budenholzer, his teams get number 1 seeds a lot. They win all the time in the regular season. But when they don't have to play the same team 7 games in a row, that works because he has this one system that once you figure it out, he doesn't have anything else. Mm-hmm. Spoelstra shows you every different thing in the book from one game to the next, from one quarter to the next. Yep. His ability to adapt and to adjust are, I think, second to none. So I don't even listen to any of that. Injuries are part of the game. Last year, you could say was even more significantly affected by injuries than this year. Exactly. It happens all the time. So
LeBron in 16, where he lost Kyrie and Kevin Love, and he went 6 with against the Warriors. So
right.
Arguably the best roster ever assembled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I kind of I'm in a little bit of a pickle because we're going to end the show talking about LeBron James and how great he is. But our buddy Jeff, who is also of the Off the Ball Network, asked a doozy of a question. I just recently started seeing rumors of this circulating around. I don't feel like it's real. We'll go ahead and address this question first because I really want to end on a high note for LeBron James. Coach, any chance, and I'm not saying like it has to be a yes or a no. If you live somewhere between 1 and 10, feel free, my brother, to go ahead and speak your mind. Is there any chance that this was LeBron James's last game?
This is not his last game. I think I really think he's on a damn it pursuit for more. He's chasing at this point. Like, to me, and it's crazy to think that he's less than 90 days away from his 36th birthday. 9 times out of 10, you would normally think a guy who's that accomplished, it's time to hang it up. No, he's playing.
Year 17 is a pretty benchmark time for a person to retire.
But at him, I feel like he's just scratching the surface. Well, he's different. He's not your stereotypical 35-year-old that's giving interest 18th NBA season.
I'm aware. I'm just speaking to the point.
Yeah.
Don't kill me, guys. Don't kill me.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just more so it just speaks to his legacy where it's just the mere thought of him retiring is like, I don't think it's gonna happen. It's just because he's different. He's just a different cat, man. He's like no other.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna give it to you, Prez. We're all saying the same thing, but the guy that
he's in the comment section, someone said he's still a bum.
Yeah,
oh,
they
that's
did.
my boy. Yeah,
that's my boy. Don't you expect that at this point?
Ignore it.
It's just poking. It's a friend. It's a friend of coaches. I know that it's all in good fun. But Prez, I want to ask you, man, because we are all saying the same thing, that he's chasing somebody. The guy that he's chasing shocked the world a couple times, right? And retired, in his prime twice. I I'm pretty sure that everybody was saying it would, if there was social media around at that time, you know, people would probably be saying the same thing. Thinking in that tone, does that change your mind at all? Does that not even a little, doesn't even move the needle a little bit? That Michael Jordan did the same thing a couple times.
Well, it's also like the era that Jordan had to go through. Like those Pistons teams, they were like choke slamming him and putting him in like figure
Right.
four locks.
Wasn't even basketball.
That wasn't even basketball. Like, come on, like half that wasn't even basketball. Like so I could. That's why like when people like,
Don't tell old people that.
Mm-mm.
Well, but this crazy is because I used to think like that, like, oh, the Jordan, like that was the greatest era, like, oh, blah. And then like as you get older, you're like, that era was kind of like it was a lot of trash. Like you look at today, and I'm not saying today's game is so much better because it's younger and it's full of more athletes and all that, but the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th guy on the bench, even some of the starters are like guys that we like. You look at now, you're like, oh hell no, he would even touch a court today. Like he would get like I look at those Knicks teams and I'm like, how did Patrick Ewing get even to a finals with those teams? Like he's playing with a lot of truck drivers and
because he had Jeff Van Gundy jumping on his ankle.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's like what Jordan had, like he's getting tackled and all that. So you now looking at it now as someone who's older, like you're like, I get why he retired because he got killed, man. He's getting absolutely killed, and like, and we saw in the Last Dance, like he was getting ridiculed and all these things, like just because there wasn't social media, he was still getting, a brunt of people getting on him and all that. So like,
it wasn't as instant, but yes, the news.
I think it's instant now. Like we can see in seconds, like how something.
Coach and I talked about this on one of the shows that we did together. There used to be this thing called a newspaper, right, Coach?
Yeah. Novel concept.
Yeah.
So,
there's no swiping, nothing.
But I don't see LeBron. Like it's just we've never seen someone like this. I think we need to just appreciate him. Why can't we appreciate greatness? I feel like, especially in today's social media, like we love to just trash greatness. Like it's like him, like Tom Brady. They do the same thing with Tom. Tom Brady throws a pick six. Oh, he's awful. He's trash. And then and then he throws 5 touchdowns like last week. Like I know he had a bad game, and then they talk about it's like, come on, guys. Like he has one bad game. He's 43 freaking years old. Like
on a brand new team.
And like we didn't have no training camp. Like, come on. Let's be with no weapon. All his weapons are hurt. So like
context,
it just seems like and even in the Super Bowl when he played against the Eagles, right, 500 yards, 3 touchdowns. He fumbles once because he's forcing the ball down the field because they need it, and people get on him. Like it's just.
But that's what happens when you're the greatest of all time. When you're looked at that high. When you're looked at that high, you're criticized to that level.
Exactly, right? They did it with Tiger Woods and all that. Like people love to like break down greatness, but they love to bring him back up. And like when Tiger won the Masters, like everyone was like, "Yeah, oh my God, this is great!" It's like, oh, weren't you the same people trashing him? Like, oh, he's garbage. He should never golf again. And like, oh, yo, he's the greatest thing. Like, I feel like we just appreciate what we're seeing because we're never gonna see this again. This is a dude. This is a once in a generational talent. Like we're not gonna see this again. Let's appreciate it. If it's 2 more years, appreciate it. Like if it's 1 more year, appreciate it. Like we don't know how much longer. Like eventually he's gonna just stop playing. Like he's just gonna say, I'm done. Like
for sure.
Like we haven't seen a guy like play 17 straight years and do what he's done. Like it's,
at this level,
like we've seen guys play 17 years, but like Vince Carter played 37 years, and the last 30 weren't like irrelevant. Like so, like Kobe
and Dirk. They weren't
like
Kobe and Dirk.
His last couple years, like
and to be honest, if Kobe wasn't Kobe, those last couple of years were nothing really to write home about.
He was shooting
a
like
legend.
38% from 37%, just chucking shots. But that's Kobe. But like LeBron, it's crazy. Where do you like? You can't say, well, oh yeah, he's definitely on the decline. Like he may be like 0.5% like on the decline, but like that is still an all NBA first team MVP type player. Like,
and the people that will criticize,
where is the decline? Like I don't see a legit climb where you like, oh, out of nowhere he's gonna have that
all the time moment.
I don't see that cliff. I don't see the cliff.
Me
where he's
neither.
just gonna hold
What's
out.
crazy is that the retort that you'll get to that comment about him, it'll be like, "Oh no, we've seen this before with like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or like Wilt Chamberlain." Like, okay, did you even watch those players play? Like,
No.
you won't witness, you won't see nothing like this for maybe another 20 years. Like that
If
comes
that.
around literally
If
every
that.
20 years.
Right.
If you're going off of those, if you're going off of that metric, if you're going off of Wilt and you're going off of Kareem, you won't see this again for 20 more
Usually,
years.
like once every 25 years, you might get a guy like this.
Right. You might get a guy. Well, Austin, I haven't been able to convince Couch or LeBron even a little bit. Like even me saying, you know, that great comment that I had about, you know, him chasing Jordan, and Jordan did it earlier. I thought that was a great little bit of a needle mover. They're unfazed by it. What about you, man? Do you got your poker face?
Well, you know, I love to always back you up, but I got to take their side on this. I don't see it happening. A couple things about the whole Michael Jordan narrative. You know, when he retired the first time, what did he have left to prove?
And his father too. Now, I mean,
right, and that, you know, he had a horrible life-changing thing happen, and that, you know, that really messes with the way people think, and to an extent that a lot of people don't even understand.
And he didn't know LeBron James was coming for him, you know. 20.
Exactly. Even in The Last Dance, he talked about having to beat, you know, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, and he did that. And what else did he have to prove? Who at that point wasn't, you know, convinced that he was at the mountaintop? He reached his mountaintop at one point in his career, more than, you know, and then kind of doubled down on it, obviously. But whether or not he feels that way, LeBron has not even come close to reaching his mountaintop, because his mountaintop is definitively being called the greatest ever. And I think he'll play longer than Kobe did. I think he'll do everything in his power to get 6 rings at least. Whether or not he gets there remains to be seen. I think he can. I think he could, obviously. I think really he's kind of just starting the second phase of his career as a point guard now. He's got to have, you know, kind of a renewed, you know, sense of.
He might be the best point guard ever. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
If somebody told you, you know, if you didn't.
LeBron at point might be the best point ever.
If you didn't know who LeBron James was, say you were living under a rock for the last 20 years, and you knew what basketball was, though, and somebody told you, oh yeah, this guy that has been the greatest player for the last 15 years is a 6'9", 250-pound small forward, is gonna, in year 17, lead the NBA in assists and win his 4th title, you'd probably laugh at him. And he's a point guard. He's legitimately a point guard. And it's
you
just
think
unreal.
Couch creating a player on 2K.
Exactly.
That is Couch on 2K. That is Couch on 2K.
Facts.
Exactly. I can't tell you how
And
many
he's on the
times.
Sacramento Kings.
How many times I did that growing up too. I do that stuff all the time. It's true.
Yeah.
He's like,
you're absolutely right though. Like
It's prototype. It's a
and
prototype.
I remember reading something about Wilt Chamberlain one time where it was the year that he averaged all those points and had like 50 and 25, and they were calling him a ball hog. And he told the reporter that called him a ball hog, you know, I could lead the NBA in assists if I wanted to. And he laughed at him and he went out and did it. I think LeBron could do anything he wanted. Any year he could lead the league in any category he wanted to if that's what he focused on.
he could lead the
But he
league
knows
in
that that's not what matters. That's not what people are going to talk about. And I think he's just more driven than people even understand to shut everyone up. Whether he will ever say that or not, I think he is motivated to definitively end his career as the best ever.
He literally said it in the first game. He was like, I need my respect. I need to
my respect, right.
People disrespect it. Like they'll bring up the
And when he says stuff like that, it only
ridiculous.
makes people want to double down on not respecting him even harder.
Exactly.
Let him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And let him disrespect.
Let him.
Yeah,
Just
like,
keep
who
winning.
cares? Like if I'm that good, you know, then I'm gonna tell people, hey, you can respect me because I am that good. Guess what? I just won the championship. And like people always bring up, oh, he's 4-6 in the finals, but you also have to put that in context. Like, all right, you want to give him the Dallas loss? Like, all right, we all agree, even LeBron agrees. Like, he did not show up in that series, right? But if you look at the first
JJ
one-
Barea is like the biggest like negative mark on his resume right now.
he didn't show up. But then you look at the first one he went to when he faced the Spurs. Like, come on, look at that roster he was with. Like Sasha.
That's not a championship roster.
You know,
Was-
Junior Delgado,
right.
like Drew Gooden. Like, come on,
Larry
But,
Hughes.
but that speaks to his greatness. If you can take you and Boobie Gibson,
he took
can't
us
go to.
four. He took us
He
four
could take
finals,
and
right?
bring Boobie Gibson as a
Exactly,
six
right?
man, and we will go to the NBA
Mhm.
finals.
Mhm.
Well, let's be
Right.
real. I would be the sixth man, but I get what you're saying. So
like it just had to put everything in context. Like the Cavaliers, like, all right, year one he goes back to Cleveland. Kyrie gets hurt in the in the playoffs, and then Kevin Love gets his shoulder, from Kelly Olynyk, right? Kelly Olynyk takes his shoulder out,
Yeah.
right? So he
Mhm.
doesn't have them. He goes 6 against the Warriors team, right? Then he comes back the
Right.
next year, comes back from 3-1 wins, and then they decide to get Kevin Durant. And obviously, I mean, come on, there's only so much you could do, like,
Right.
no,
He goes 1 year versus
Everyone
with all
lost.
his guys, right? He goes 1 year with K Love and Kyrie with them, and Kyrie leaves. He only has Kevin Love going against all those guys. He gets swept. So like everything has to be put in context. Like, all right, he's 4-6
Yep.
in the finals. Like Jordan was 6.
he's also been there 10 times.
Yeah, he's never lost in the first round. Okay,
Wow, right.
never
Never.
lost in the 1st
Mhm.
round. Right? It's just we got to start putting more respect. And I used to be one of those people like, oh, Jordan's better than LeBron. LeBron can never get there. Oh, he's this and this in the finals. And then I'm like,
Me too.
like I said before, as you get older, you're like,
Up until this year, man. Like for real.
Yeah.
Up until this year really did it for me. This year was really
coming
like
back 3-1, when he came back from 3-1.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, oh, I need to start putting more.
Yeah.
respect.
And I think it's a parallel to life where I think we all know there are certain points in our lives where we reach certain heights that some
Mhm.
people aren't going to reach, and vice versa, where some people are going to reach heights at the age of 30, some reach at 25, some going to be 40, some going to be 50.
Mhm.
Everybody's path to greatness is a different paved road. So for him to be 4-6, okay, but he's been there 10 times.
correct.
He's been there 10 times.
People
Like,
only get there once, let alone 10.
right.
times.
And it would have been it would have been 11 if he wasn't hurt last season.
Could have been.
Coulda, we don't know. Coulda,
Yeah,
coulda.
if-
It's hard to say.
Rondo
I
could
don't
have been.
know. I think he might be right. He gets that team to the playoffs. I don't know who's going to
had a
really
tough-
knock
I
I
them
mean,
out.
this roster though, like for real, like last season, you would argue that there was probably more like
Depth.
talent depth wise last season.
He didn't have a legit Batman
Right.
or Robin to his Batman.
He needed.
That is a good point. That is a good point.
Because he
Yeah,
had the
because-
talent, obviously, but they weren't ready. Lonzo wasn't ready.
And
Brandon
B.I.
wasn't ready. Kuzma
B.I.
wasn't
wasn't ready.
He
Mhm.
needed Anthony Davis.
Hart wasn't ready.
Yeah, they weren't ready. to be a
Kuzma,
champion.
yeah.
They weren't
Kuz, yeah.
ready to be championship level team. But this team,
I would have loved to have seen at least that roster make a push though. Like,
Mhm.
and I'm not trying to
Yeah,
get too
being
far deep
hurt.
into the weeds. I don't want to get too far deep into the weeds, but yeah,
that's the best for like Brandon Ingram and all those guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because look at
Kuzma
Brandon
will probably get the same thing. Just like quick little plug for Kuzma.
Kuzma's that same step. I think people forget that like he was a good player. Like, and now
Yeah.
it's that LeBron effect, right? When you're the third guy, right? And
Mhm.
you're presuming
Yeah.
to be the third guy, right? We've seen it with
Mhm.
Bosh, we saw it with Love, like, and I'm not saying he's that type of player because he's not an all-star player, but he was.
It's just you got to play a different game.
Now you go from like you're a wing and you're a slasher and all that. Now like
The
you're
ball
pretty
is
much
always in
spot
your
up-
hands.
You're a spot up 3-point shooter, and that's not Kuzma's game. Like Kuzma's game is to be a slasher, get to the
Mhm.
hole. Like he can't do.
Oh,
that
and
when
you
he's
got to
off.
defend better than you ever have before too.
Now his IQ, his basketball IQ, definitely needs to get better because
Mhm.
Correct.
it seemed like
He's
was
still a
just
pup.
absolutely lost. And definitely needs to improve on just the way his feel of the game because it was just sometimes you're like, what are you doing? Like that's like common
Mhm.
sense plays. Like he was just off, but. Being that third guy with LeBron is always tough. It's always tough. I mean, that's Kevin Love. He was, Kevin Love went from a 25-15 guy, all NBA, and then now he's the same thing with Bosh, right? Bosh is 25-12. They go from being all NBA second team.
Yeah, all NBA players, correct.
And now like they're cornered 3-point shooters and they don't get any recognition or any love. No pun intended, but
Yeah.
crazy.
Love gets love.
I don't
Go
think
ahead.
I don't think people give guys like that enough credit for how hard it is to really, dive into that third guy role when you've been a guy like Kevin Love or Chris Bosh. Like how hard would it be to suppress your ego and say, well, I don't need to get mine, but if we're going to win, like not everybody can do that.
Yes.
people used to say all the time, imagine if these guys didn't care so much about money and teamed up, how good they'd be. And then as soon as they started doing it, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to basketball.
Isn't that, oh my God.
Exactly.
It makes no sense.
Right. And you
It
get
blows my mind.
right. It kills me. And like a Chris Bosh, what a sacrifice. He was 26 years old when he went to
Mhm.
he was 26 years old, like a perennial all-star.
And did make a
people
jump
act
on
like the pay
defense.
cuts that they took aren't
Right, and
significant.
massive pay cuts.
Winning, like to win, you need good players to win, and people get mad when you team up with other good players to win. It's like if you do that, you're like oh, like they want LeBron to play with Sasha Pavlovich's and guys like that to validate winning
Well,
a championship.
back in the 90s, you needed maybe two stars like the Bulls had. Now every team that makes it far in the playoffs has 2 or 3 really good players. It's just the league's just deeper. Like you said, you know, the 12th man on the Lakers roster would have been a starter on a lot of those teams. And it's just completely how much deeper the league is.
So much
and
talent.
And it's like
Dwight Howard wouldn't be logging 2 minutes tonight.
right.
Like,
And
he
it's
would-
like, oh, since Jordan had a team of, you know, Scottie Pippen and a bunch of role players, LeBron has to do it that way too, even though no other team is like that anymore.
Thank God you brought
well,
that up.
and what's also crazy is that it's not that I don't think it's the teaming up that bothers people, which in the 90s there were people teaming up. I mean, hello Charles Barkley and Scottie
Right?
Pippen.
I'm
Hello
gonna tell
Charles
you,
Barkley and
Yeah,
Scottie
like,
Pippen.
It's
But
been
it-
going on for a long time. People are just blind to it. Like it's been going on.
But what
for a
people
long
want to
time.
see, instead of it being done free agency, people like seeing their stars getting drafted by their teams and then bringing in a couple of free agent role players like the Chicago Bulls drafted, you know, Jordan and Pippen and go ahead, Coach.
But the really and I think we talked about this. I don't know if you remember from last week. I think one of the shows we did last week. What people problem really is these guys are able to control their own narrative.
Exactly.
That's the crux of it.
Player
Because,
empowerment.
like you said, player empowerment. How dare you leave? Like LeBron, how dare you leave Cleveland? Well, who fault is that? Danny Ferry is Danny Ferry did not. He did not want to trade to get Amari Stoudemire. He wanted to. I want to keep JJ Hickson.
Yeah.
Amari Stoudemire, but you want to keep JJ Hickson, and you expect his man to stay here, and you ain't gonna give him Amari Stoudemire?
Because he showed that he can carry your team to the finals with nothing anyway, and if you can save money, that's what he's doing.
But that's the thing. And then what happens with that is, okay, he decided to leave and he decides to control his own narrative. It's okay. Because in the same token, they got rid of Sergio Ilgauskas, but he's like famed. He's loved in Cleveland.
Yeah, he's
But
a
when
legend.
LeBron
Came
jumped
back,
ship,
When
right,
they
and he came
the first
back because he
game,
went to Miami.
and they
Because remember, he
should've.
went to Miami.
went.
He went to
He
Miami.
went to Miami.
But he got
chased.
right. He went chased, and then he ended up becoming like a god in Cleveland. But like, and the same thing go with this situation, and you know, it's what it is because they control their narrative because they say, "Hey, I am tired of where I'm at, and I want to go somewhere else. I want to be in another situation." Now, if he would have got released or traded or whatever, they would love LeBron. But no, he decided to leave because he was a free agent. He gave you 7 years. Agent.
And people make the
Unrestricted.
They
Right.
hate the decision still. Like 10
Right,
years
to
later,
this
like,
day.
it's like,
I'm
dude,
not a
like,
fan
you
of the
made a
decision, like the
Okay,
television and the
I'm not-
WWF entrance and all that.
I'm
stuff.
not
like
gonna
that,
front.
that-
I watched it.
He did raise $3.3 million.
I was gonna say,
Well, we watched it.
looking back at it, it may seem a little tone deaf, kind of looking back at it, but it was for a good cause. He probably had a lot of people in his ear
And
saying,
yeah,
"Hey,
and,
you could almost sell tickets to this thing." You know,
and you look
Bill
at his,
Simmons said that on TV.
Right.
You could sell tickets to this thing and show it on
ESPN
pay per view
has-
and raise money.
Yeah.
He did.
because ESPN, right? Because that's what ESPN that's what they provide that idea.
For that were through the roof.
Right, and then the thing about it, so you're gonna go and you're gonna tell a 25-year-old kid, an impressionable 25-year-old kid, to do something like this. Of course, he's not gonna do it now at 35 years old, but he's 25 years old. Like,
He was
so
super
when you
uncomfortable doing that too.
right, and you're right. You could tell he was nervous,
and
So
probably
it
the
was a
best
situation,
athlete at
right.
that time in NBA history too. I mean,
Right.
like he's feeling himself a little bit.
Yeah.
but hey, he's 25.
He's
No,
25.
correct. I'm
Right, and
speaking
that's
to
the
that
thing,
point.
right? Oh yeah, no doubt, and that's the thing where that's when a lot of people don't really realize. Okay, yeah, you're 25, you're grown, but in the same token,
Mhm.
you're still a baby in a lot
Oh, yeah,
of,
'cause
especially in these in
I
that
think
in
I
that
was
predicament.
25. I'm like,
You
I
still
don't know
think
half
that
the
you're
stuff.
invincible. Like even
But
at 30,
but
I
you
still
still
feel
got
like I can take on like wild
but yeah,
animals and make it out alive.
but we still got. But at that time, he still had a lot of learning to do, and that was really ESPN was the one that created the monster for that because essentially
Yeah.
they were the ones, and of course. Y'all the ones that putting this man games on, and he's 17 years old. Like you
Yep.
created this monster.
You guys are making money off him.
Right.
On covers of
So,
magazines
right.
as long as you can remember.
It's almost a form of being almost ESPN almost can be accused of being a child predator.
And like
Almost.
It's predatory. It's
and
predatory.
they got talking points for the rest of NBA history by doing this. Like you always
Right.
have
and
something you
they
can talk
did it,
about.
let's face it, ESPN did it for ratings because they knew they were going
Right.
to get
Oh, yeah.
huge
100%.
numbers,
Right.
Everybody
Right.
watched it.
It was
Everybody watched it.
Everybody. I remember where I was. I was in my bed. I'm like, is he gonna go to the Knicks? Is he gonna? And then like, this is when social media was still like, it's still good. And then like, you're reading like, oh no, he's going to Miami, and it's like, oh,
Right.
he's really.
Yeah.
And then boom, I'm going to South Beach. Now, if people could get mad at that, but it's like, if that's the worst thing he's done in his career, I mean,
So be it.
he's had a pretty good career. If that's the worst thing
For
he's
sure.
done. When he was
Right.
a young 24-year-old kid, like
Right, I take
that's
it.
the worst thing he does, and he raised money for it. So it's not like okay,
Right.
So if you want to take the good with the bad, like all right, the bad was him doing that publicly on a national stage. Okay, whatever. If you don't like that, whatever. But he also raised a crap load of money for the Boys and Girls Club. So like,
Yeah.
okay, he did that. Okay, you may not like that, but he raised money and for a good cause. So
Exactly.
like, all right, come on, guys, let's
How many hometown stars have ever on their way out the door just said, "Oh, here's a few $1 million I raised for the local community," and
and
been
the money he
vilified
raised,
for
period,
it.
Just living in like the economy in Cleveland was
Yeah, I read about that
booming.
one. It's unreal the amount of money they lost in general.
And
as far as
he's still pouring money into his
Right.
hometown. Still pouring money into his hometown.
Yeah, but he just made a business decision. It was strictly a business
Decision.
Like
And a lot of players, like I mean, we look at Kevin Durant. Like if there's anybody who has rivaled the just downright hate by making a choice as a free agent to go wherever you darn well please. Like if anybody's rivaled that.
That was way worse than whatever LeBron James.
No. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
But I'm saying
yeah.
why people hate,
I know what you mean.
why hate people like Durant is because he was up 3-1 and
He went to the
decided
team
to
that beat
play
him
for
that
the
he should have
Exactly.
eliminated.
that was
right.
ready-made to win title after title already.
Yeah.
A back-to-back MVP and Klay Thompson and Draymond, a bunch of all-stars. So like when people compare, like, oh, it's the same thing that LeBron did. It's like, no, I mean the Kevin Durant thing is a little worse. Like listen, he's a free agent, so he can go wherever the hell he wants. Right?
He didn't
That's why
break
he's
any
a
rule.
free agent.
Like
He didn't get
Right.
traded there at all. Like, he was a free agent. He made a business decision, right? Because the Kevin Durant thing was more than just all right. I want to play with a bunch of guys. It was business. It was strict. It was a business move, too, right? It was Silicon Valley, like
Right.
and it worked.
and
And it was a basketball move too. And it was
Mhm.
basketball move as well.
right. And now his businesses are booming, right? Because he went
Yeah,
to
right.
Silicon Valley. Now he's in New York.
So
Yep,
it's all,
Brooklyn, you're right.
it's all business. It's like people realize there's so much more to it than just I go to a team. Like it's business. Like you think about money,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one thing
go-
real quick about
Go ahead. Close out,
him
and we're gonna
leaving
transition. Yeah.
about him leaving Cleveland in the first place the first time. You said something about guys teaming up and how it's been going on all along. Like you said, if your GM's over here, refusing to trade for another star for you, and you watch the Boston Celtics create the, what a lot of people say are really the original super team just to beat LeBron, why would you sit there and say, well, I'm going to stay here and let them kick my ass for 2 or 3 more years?
Let's do it
Exactly.
the way.
And then
Well, Paul Pierce just said too that his generation's out of the league. Like people aren't afraid of LeBron anymore, which I was like, I had to Google the big three just to make sure that I didn't imagine something.
Right.
Toronto had to get Kawhi Leonard because LeBron James literally destroyed Toronto. He swept them every year, and
they got rid of the coach of the year and traded away guys off of the best team in the best roster in the East because of LeBron.
NBA second team, and they were like, okay,
Nah, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
like we need
No
to upgrade.
thanks.
Like, even if it's taking a chance on a guy that probably is going to leave, right? and they took the risk. And then LeBron James goes to the West Coast anyway. So it's
And then the real reason people get so upset about it, and like it's player empowerment, but the reason that bothers people is because most fans have all these emotions and love tied into a team, and they feel like players feel that same way, or they should. And when they get proven wrong, and when they realize that, like, you know, there's no loyalty in this business, really, either way. There really has never been.
Correct.
You know, nobody talks about when a team just trades away a guy without him knowing about it. Nobody ever gets really mad at the team for that. But if a guy leaves the team, it's like, oh, we drafted you. You know, we made you what you were. Nobody made LeBron James what he was, but LeBron James. He has no ties that are forcing him to stay anywhere. No player does.
Exactly.
I think another thing is, like, I think people are really scared that he's getting closer to being the actual, like, Michael Jordan has been.
That's really what it is.
There was no for the last maybe 20 years, 30 years.
People are scared that he's actually might be the greatest of all time, and people hate that. They hate that. They hate change, right? When you're so accustomed, oh, Jordan's the best, and then you like actually act. Come on, guys. Like, and I think Michael Jordan's the greatest of all time. But it's
correct.
But it's like, if people think LeBron's the GOAT, that's cool, right? It's
cool.
Yeah. Well, hang on, Chris.
Big issue. Like, I don't get it.
Chris, let me stop you, because I want to close out on this note, okay? And you can jump right back in. Just let me throw something at you, okay? Right now, LeBron James is second all time in points scored in the playoffs, right? Fourth in rebounds, second in assists, second in steals. He is second in playoff triple doubles. Now, listen, I'm not going to pretend like it's a landslide in accolades and achievements between him and Jordan, because Jordan has a Defensive Player of the Year. He has a bajillion scoring titles. He has the edge over him in a lot of other areas that I don't care to look up right now at this moment in time, right? But he does have the edge over LeBron in a lot of areas, and people would argue that the versatility as far as both sides of the ball, like all defensive selections and things like that, that's why LeBron James can't be the GOAT, okay? But after going over those achievements that I've listed, two parts. One, is LeBron James the GOAT to you right now? And if not, part two is, what does he need to do in order to surpass Michael Jordan, if he can at all? And if you don't think that he can, go ahead and speak to that too.
I mean, for him, I think he definitely wants to get to that 6. I think that's something that, you know, that's something I know. It to get to 6 and 6, to be 500 and get 6 championships and 12 chances. I mean, that's something I think could definitely, for some people, you know, but some people, I feel like he could win 7, and people are like, oh, well, he's 7 and 6.
Right? Yeah. I'm just
Jordan
for you.
6-0. Like, it's like, to me, it's like, I mean, I felt today when he won, I'm like, man, he really might be the greatest of all time. Like, it's not like he, like, as a player. I mean, as a player, there's literally nothing like that we've ever seen. A guy who can literally score at will. Right? He could literally get to the basket. I mean, he has guys who are the same size as him, and he's just getting past them. Like Kawhi Leonard is 6'8", 240, and it's with ease. Like, and it's just like, and his passing is,
and blocks people with his middle finger.
Yeah, and like his passing is literally, he might be the greatest passer of all time. He might be the greatest passer of all time, and I think people just don't want to think that, like, oh, you know,
how dare you say that he's better at passing than Magic Johnson?
Like, better than Magic. Like, he might be. Like, Magic was a flashier passer, right? Because every time we see Magic, and it's like, and then, like, I didn't watch Magic play, so it's kind of also hard to say, like, you know, we've seen LeBron James from 18 years old till still playing, and like, he's gonna break every single record. He's gonna break Kareem's record. He's gonna be he's gonna pass. I think he's gonna pass Karl Malone next year, right? I think he's pretty close to Karl, and he's gonna get Kareem's record. Like, he's gonna,
if he doesn't retire,
he's already like top 10 in assists. I'm sure he's gonna be top 10 in rebounds. He's gonna have the most points of all time, most points in the playoffs. I mean, if he wins another one next year, I think, to me, my opinion, he will go down as the greatest of all time. I just
Mm.
if you can get another one next year, he's just remarkable. He can literally do everything. I mean, and it's just impressive that he's doing it at 30. Like this game alone, he's bullying people to the hole. Like guys at
Right.
Trace McGrady at 35 was out of he was playing in the
Dinosaur.
finals and then in the with he was playing
He
for
was
the
with the Knicks
Spurs.
at that point, wasn't he?
No, he was with the Spurs and he's playing
Yep.
garbage minutes. Like
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of guys 35 years old are
Looking
like
out of
Jason
shape.
Kidd.
done.
Yeah,
They're
Jason Kidd
done.
they're done, or they're like a
Right.
shell of themselves, and they're playing a minimal role. Like this guy's the best player in the NBA still. Like
Right.
crazy. Like
He's about to be 36.
exactly.
Mhm.
And his son is 2 years away from being in the NBA.
That's what's
Randy.
crazy. He may play basketball with his son
Exactly,
soon.
right? He might be able to play in the NBA with his son.
Son.
I mean, we don't see that
That's like some baseball
and
stuff.
play at a high level, like
Mhm.
not just like he's just a regular dude. Hey, he just hanging on. No, LeBron could still be a 25, 8-8 guy, and his son be in the league in 3 years. It's just crazy. He's remarkable. You
Yeah.
just got to put respect on his name, no matter what. I
Mhm.
don't care how you feel about him, but like you said, people are scared about him for player empowerment because he changed the game, right? He changed all that. He's chasing the goat, like everyone's
Mhm.
a unanimous goat, right? He's getting close
Mhm.
to it. I mean, I'm arguing to someone on Twitter right now about that. Like they're like, oh
Mhm.
no, the errors and all that. I was like, oh come on, no. Put respect on his name. It's just there's so many factors and
Yep.
other factors that I don't even want to dive into and all that with LeBron, but it's just you just can't deny how great he is. He is literally one of the best ever, and we need to appreciate it because,
Mhm.
like I said, we don't have much time with him in the league.
For sure. Austin, again, is he your GOAT? If not, what does he got to do to be your GOAT? Or can he be your GOAT at all?
Actually, he's been my GOAT for a few seasons now, believe it or not.
Okay.
I was like you guys and still am a big Jordan fan. I was always,
Wait,
no
you just
way.
said that LeBron is your GOAT and you're a Jordan fan?
I know it's unreal.
How are you not? how have
I'm
you
also going to try to run for president in 4 years and bring the left and the right together. We'll work on that next. But first, I'm going to bring Facebook together on LeBron.
Dude, you got
I got big career goals.
Yeah.
I like challenges, I guess.
That's the most impossible thing ever. Like if it's impossible in this world, that's pretty impossible.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is a wormhole that we don't need to get down right now
So-
because we're already trying to tackle a basketball conversation.
LeBron and Jordan
That's
is pretty hard to
impossible.
get people together with. Let alone
Correct,
getting
yeah.
the left and the right. to
Uniting the
coordinate.
country, yes.
I think if you're talking about the greatest of all time, there's a couple different ways to look at it.
Yeah.
Do you look at it at, who do you think is going to win you a game if you need one guy to save your life? I'm probably going to take Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
But overall, throughout an entire career, there's no way in my mind that you can really argue in terms of a whole body of work that there's ever been anyone better than LeBron James. I mean, he's third in points. He's about 2,700 points behind Karl Malone. So he's going to maybe be a year and a half or so. But he's played 250 less regular season games to this point.
Well,
so
Carmelo was
that's
stat padding at the end of his career. too.
exactly.
He was
So
stat
that's
padding.
pretty crazy to look
Yeah,
at.
he did sign with the
And
Lakers after
Just
all.
look at the career record books. I mean, LeBron's at the top of every major statistical category or near the top, in the top 10 of just about everything. And no one else is anywhere near that. He's played, tonight was his 260th NBA finals game or NBA playoff game. It's his 55th finals game, 55 games in the finals, almost a full season in the NBA finals. And he's done it in 3 different places he went to the finals with a team that nobody thought belonged there. He's taken, super teams. He's had multiple different franchises, just build these incredible rosters all because of him. And I remember up until he went back to Cleveland, I wasn't a big fan of his. I kind of didn't like the whole decision thing. It doesn't bother me now nearly as much as it did, but I was a little bit of a hater. I was nowhere near the level of some people are now, but I was like you guys, there's no way he's ever going to be close. And I remember I was at work watching Game 7 when he came back from the 3-1 lead, when he beat the Warriors. And almost jumping up and down. I was so excited that he actually finally did that. And it was like that moment, it's like something just switched, and it's just like this gut feeling. Like I've never seen anything like this, and I probably never will again. And so to me, like I said, if, like the Space Jam, if aliens came down and we had to play a game for the fate of the earth, Jordan would probably be my number one pick to save the world in that instance. But if you're talking overall body of work, which I think is more important to me, at least, it's LeBron James hands down.
Yeah.
Couch, man, same question. Where does LeBron rank as far as being your GOAT? If he's not your GOAT, what does he have to do, or is there anything he can do to be the GOAT?
I'm a Jordan guy, and I look at it like this: they could both be GOATs, in my personal opinion. What Michaels did is great in his era, but what LeBron, I can't ignore what LeBron has done. LeBron has been a child star.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we talked about this on your part a few months ago.
Yeah,
LeBron
absolutely.
James has been a superstar since he was 15 years old. I remember reading LeBron James when I was in high school in 2000. I was
newspapers. That was our
newspaper. Yes, a newspaper. Yeah, newspaper. And at the time, it was an article in Slam magazine. I think from him to doing what he's done now, as far as being a guy that came out of high school, which there's only a handful of guys who have made that jump and have.
Who else was on that cover? Who else was on that cover, Coach? Just refresh people.
Sebastian Telfair.
Mm-hmm.
Where is he now?
He just got out of jail.
Hey, don't disrespect my New York City guy, man.
No, but I'm just saying. Like, but it's going to your point where we looked at those two at once upon a time in this lifetime, they were on the same level, and that's nothing. And there's no disrespect to Sebastian Telfair, but in the same token, for LeBron James, we're still talking about him as one of the greatest players of all time, and it's 2020.
Mm-hmm.
This is we talk. LeBron James has been in headlines for 20 years as a 15-year-old kid from Akron, Ohio, with an uncombed afro. You read about him in the Slam magazine, and then you get to the point where the NBA career, he as far as he led Cleveland, and I didn't realize. The second that second season that Cleveland actually made the playoffs, they went to the NBA Finals. Because I'm thinking, if you don't think about it, they didn't get to the playoffs until 2006. They go to the NBA Finals in 2007.
2 years he didn't make the playoffs with them.
Right. So then you go his second year in the NBA in the NBA playoffs. He goes to the NBA Finals. He goes to Miami. He goes to he wins 2 titles, in Miami. Yeah. While he was there, he goes back to Cleveland. Wins a title for Cleveland for the first time. They've had a major championship since 1964 or something like that. Something in that age.
It was like
56 years. Yeah. Then he goes to a Lakers team, a proud franchise team that has not made the playoffs since 2013. First time since 2013. Now there are NBA champions.
I feel so bad for
everything they went through too.
all of those banners and
Right.
Hall of Fame players, yeah.
And now they're tied with Boston with 17 titles on the strength. That's the best part. That's the best part.
I don't have to hear Boston fans say they have the most titles.
And then just imagine if we look into a crystal ball, what if this Lakers team surpasses the Lakers? I mean the Celtics of having most rings, and that's on the back of LeBron James.
What if they face each other next year?
I was hoping for that big time this year. That would have been great.
I was hoping too, right? But hey,
this next year would be even better.
Hey, let's make it happen. Brad Stevens.
I'll do everything I can.
Get out, coach.
It could definitely be the,
right.
According to some people, you can just call the league and tell them that's what people want to see, and they'll make it happen. So.
Yeah, because if the NBA was rigged, they would not have allowed a 30-point.
The NBA was rigged. The Boston Celtics wouldn't have the most titles ever.
Yeah, the NBA allowed the Clippers to lose 3-1 to the Denver Nuggets. Like, because you think the NBA really wanted the Clippers to lose to the Nuggets in the semifinals.
Oh, that the NBA offices were terrified of the idea of a Nuggets Heat finals.
All the Clippers games at 9:30 at night.
Nuggets Heat would have been all-time low.
Right.
Yeah. Well, for me, going back to the GOAT conversation, I've been talking.
What you think?
Yeah, I've been talking with a bunch of you. I probably said it to all 3 of you guys actually, but I'll just go ahead and put it out there in the ether now. man, like Chris, kind of like what you were saying, like I do think that there can only be one. So I'm sorry, Couch, for your kumbaya approach, where they can both be goats. Like I'm more the Highlander, right? There can only be one, right? So I'm right now, right now, Jordan is still my guy, because like you, Couch, like I'm a big Jordan guy. Like dude, like defined like not just basketball but pop culture. Like he bled into everything, right? So and not only that, but I did just list earlier like the Defensive Player of the Year award, the 10 scoring championship, like all the extra stuff, a perfect 6-6. Yes, I understand that he lost in the first round and stuff like that, but if you look at there's the argument too for the path to the finals that, with the whole Jordan and Bron debate and stuff like that. So but yeah, like this year it really put into perspective like how great LeBron is, for him to be in, season 17, being 35, leading the league in assists for just because, right? Having to learn how to play with Anthony Davis was the first time he's really had like a dominant big, had to change his game a
never
lot.
had a player like that. Like you have to play different.
A dominant big, like who isn't a Kevin Love, where you can look at him as your third option and say, as great as you were in Minnesota, you're just going to be a standstill 3-point shooter, right? Like you're not doing that with Anthony Davis. One, because he's just too versatile offensively, and then two, he's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Like he's never had that type of guy, and he did have to learn how to play with him, right? And in year one, they are now NBA champions together. Like how I gave Kawhi Leonard a lot of credit for going to the Toronto Raptors, and they made that midseason trade for Marc Gasol and things like that, and they all won together in year one. I got to be consistent. Like just the fact that they won together in year one and they waited to see what Kawhi Leonard was going to do, and then just went and picked up dudes off the scrap heap in free agency, right? Like no one wanted Dwight Howard, right? No one wanted Dwight Howard. Everyone thought Rajon Rondo was washed up. Kyle Kuzma was supposed to be the big three dude, and he didn't do it. Alex Caruso is coming off of a G League squad. Like you could really look at this roster and make the case that this may be one of the most challenging rosters LeBron James has ever had to compete with.
Yeah, it's not really a great roster.
It's really not.
People like saying, "Oh, he has such great talent." Like he has Anthony Davis and then a bunch of.
Last game, they were only 3 players that scored 40% or higher, and the KCP was at 40%. Like that's the only reason why I choose 40. If you look at anything else above that, it was LeBron and AD. Everyone else was like 37% and lower. So there's really not like a lot of talent on this team, right? So you look at that, you consider everything else that LeBron James has done. I read off his playoff, standings. His regular season standings are insane. A triple-double with only 1 turnover at this stage in his career. Going from 3-6 to 4-6. He's not my GOAT now, but I'm telling you, if he goes back-to-back next year and is 5-6, and he's going to climb up these standings even more, he's my GOAT. And that means, like, that should mean a lot for anybody who knows me. Like, for me to say that LeBron James could be the GOAT next season if he wins back-to-back, like, it's just incredible. It's a testament to, like, how you guys were saying earlier, like, how we should just really just appreciate what we're watching now. Because I didn't, like, this might also be a little bit more remorse on my side, because I didn't really appreciate Kobe Bryant, like, because I rooted for teams that he went against, and I hated him because I didn't want to see him. Like, because he always killed my team's chances, right? So I'm kind of seeing the same thing with LeBron James now, where, like, you just got to appreciate the greatness. I'm not rooting for him, but I'm also not rooting against him. I'm kind of being impartial, but, like, man, this dude, like you said, Chris, he might be the GOAT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just, and if he opts out and he joins the Knicks and he wins a championship with the Knicks, he's officially
right.
Yeah.
He's the greatest Knick of all time, too.
Hey, maybe they'll draft his son, and there you go. That's how you get him.
Bronny,
he's going wherever his kid gets drafted. Let's be honest.
First father-son champions.
Yeah. In New York,
resurrect the Knicks,
taking New York away from Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. That would
Oh,
be
yeah.
pretty impressive. But yeah,
Mhm.
guys, we've been on here. It's 11:30 here on the East Coast. We're all on East Coast
Yeah.
time now, right? So,
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
yep, man, it's cool to be in the same time zone with you guys now.
I got to be to work in 4.5 hours.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Oh, I'm
we
cool.
were-
I work for like 3 hours tomorrow. I'll be fine.
oh well, then I don't feel bad at all.
Mm-mm.
But anyway, gents, I want to appreciate y'all coming in and putting in about an hour and 25 minutes worth of work in this late at night. Just go ahead and do a round robin real quick. Y'all go ahead and promote your work and your shows. We'll start with you, Coach.
Yes, Couch Coach Live. Anywhere you get social media, Couch Coach Live, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Apple Podcast, Spotify. We're there. Couch Coach Live.
Yeah, and then Chris, we'll go ahead and go with you.
Yeah, Off the Ball Pod. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Off the Ball Pod. You can follow the podcast on 8 podcast platforms, YouTube, Off the Ball Network, also
Mhm.
OTB_network on Twitter, Facebook, on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me there. Very active. Check out the podcast. Check out the offtheballnetwork.com. Got some great articles and some more cool stuff coming up the pipeline. So check that out. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's right. And 3 of the 4 of us are a part of the Off the Ball Network family. Go check out offtheballnetwork.com. Got a lot of cool stuff going on there. I'm sure me and Chris will be working on some more draft profiles here soon. But as for Austin and I, we run the Breaking the Game podcast. Austin,
Oh, yeah.
go ahead and give you a plug for that. And I know that you're a part of the Game Change Sports Network as well. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, if Steven and I do our show together, it's the Breaking the Game podcast. Steven's been nice enough to create an awesome website for us. We do have a YouTube channel, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Anywhere you can find podcasts, just like anything else, it's Breaking the Game. I appreciate you guys having me on. I am a part of Game Changer Sports Network as well. I do a lot of writing over there. I'm sure I'll write up a long recap about why I think LeBron James is the greatest ever here soon. One thing I did want to mention real quick, a couple cool things I thought of today that I wrote a little bit about. Alex Smith came back in the NFL. I know it's not basketball related, but I did write a little piece about that. It was pretty impressive to see. He
We're
almost
friends
lost,
at the foosball. Yeah.
almost died from a football injury. Like, that's unreal. And to be even walking at this point is incredible. And it's sad to say that it happened on the same day as Dak Prescott had a pretty horrific injury himself.
Yeah.
And, it almost makes me sick to think about how, we talked about how people like to tear people down. And
people rooting for him.
he deserved his money. He deserved that contract. He's been a great quarterback. So, I'll probably, do a little work on that as well. But, check out Game Changer Sports Network. Check out Off the Ball, Network. Got a lot of great content on both places. So, like I said, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, no problem at all. And I just want to, just thank all you gents for coming on. And like I said, putting in a lot of good work, about an hour and a half here, following a Los Angeles Lakers tying the Boston Celtics for the most rings in NBA history. That does it for there you go, Austin. That does it for here, or for us here. Stay tuned. We got work coming as soon as tomorrow on the Off the Ball Network side, and go check out Game Change Sports Network. But for Couch and for Chris and for the Breaking the Game podcast, we just thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and we'll catch up with you guys next time. Much love, everybody. And don't be racist.
Nope.
Wear your mask.
And have a good one.
Brush your teeth and wash your hands.